Welcome back to the Impact Lounge. You are in the number one place to be for the Impact Wrestling fan. This is the Cool Factor podcast. I'm your host, TW, and with me, of course, is the man with the plan, BQ. Say what's up to the people.
Yo, what's up? What's up? I got my Impact shirt on the second week in a row. Made sure I wasn't rocking some AEW stuff, so I'm very proud of myself. You know,
Try to be a little
this
more exciting than that person whose t-shirt you're wearing.
Oh man, you know why I like Macklin? He reminds me of different characters, but he reminds me of EC3 when EC3 came over, and they had to like completely scrub out who he used to be. Because if you look at his like WWE photos with the longer hair and stuff, like he doesn't look like the same person.
Right.
So I don't know. I kind of just get that vibe a little bit. I've been waiting to connect with an EC3 type character because I was obsessed with EC3 when he first showed up.
That's actually very interesting that you say that because I didn't know anything about EC3 when he was in the original FCW, NXT, whatever it was at that time. Like I never saw that version of him. So to me, he's an Impact original. You know what I mean? Like not original, but like he first came on my radar in Impact. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people who came through that WWE developmental system that never blossomed into anything. He came to Impact and completely flourished. I noticed he was doing, all the little shows. What was that little side show they used to have? Explosion.
Yeah.
He was doing like all those with the little game shows. I noticed quickly that he was doing a lot of that stuff, and I was like, this guy's putting in a lot of work. I thought that was really interesting. And listen, it obviously, worked out for him to whatever extent it could. But yes, I don't see that in Macklin at all.
No, I'm not saying he's like EC3, but I'm saying someone who's just, I don't tie him to his previous life at all. Like he feels like a completely different character.
This is a fresh slate, untapped potential. Yes.
Yeah, that's all I mean.
Yeah. I think it's more like he wasn't getting any burn in WWE, and I think I see why now. All right. Let's go. All right. Speaking of Macklin, I saw a tweet today that was very interesting. The virtuosa, Deonna Purrazzo, apparently will be starting an OnlyFans account. Is this something that interests you?
Not really. I'm not much of an OnlyFans person. Okay. Whether it's, I understand wrestlers use it as more of a Patreon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think it's interesting because I think when people see OnlyFans, they think nudes, right? And like, no working wrestler is gonna go up there and be putting up nudes. They're just not. You know what I mean? Because last thing you want is some jerk, to print out one of your pictures and show up to a show. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's interesting, but hey, look, people want to see something. So if you got the market, make your money. That's what I say.
Yeah, so it's definitely not. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like someone be like, "Hey, here's Alicia a toot asshole." You know what I mean? Like,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Not a nude thing, like
exactly.
Yeah.
I remember when I went to WrestleMania in 2017 in Orlando. Somebody had a big sign. Remember there was this scandal when somebody leaked Paige and Xavier Woods' sex tape, and somebody had a big sign that said, "I saw Paige's tea and crumpet," or something like that. I was like, damn. Yeah. So yes, that's exactly why these women, they wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? Because you guys are stupid and you act like you've never seen a woman before. All right.
Yeah.
So we already started giving you some gold content. And if you like what we just had to say, that little back and forth right there, go ahead and smash that like button. If you think you're going to like what we're about to say, go ahead and smash that like button. Before you leave here today, go ahead and smash that like button. As a matter of fact, right now, as I'm talking, go ahead and smash that like button. I'll wait.
There we go. Hit the bell while you're at it so you know every time a Cool Factor episode uploads. Just do it. Just do it. Come on.
Okay. All right. Now that you've done that, and I'm going to count. Okay. I'm going to count the likes. If you watch this video and you look at the likes and it's under 100, you got to like it twice. Okay. I don't even know if that's possible.
No, it's not. That just make you like it and then unlike it.
Yes. Oh, that's true. All right. So I mean, let's not bury the lead here. Of course, you know this is the number one place to be for the Impact Wrestling fan. But the biggest story in wrestling this week is not about Impact Wrestling. The biggest story in wrestling this week was the news that came out on Twitter, the announcement that ROH is going to be going on a hiatus. As of the end of the year, they're planning to produce a show at the end of the year, and then after that, their plan is to go on hiatus. And they said they want to reimagine the product, and the plan is to come back in April with live events. They say that, but they also released all their talent from contracts. And according to reports from your Lord and Savior Dave Meltzer, they are allowed to sign anywhere and work anywhere immediately. To me, that sounds like we just didn't have the heart to say we're folding. But you know, Ring of Honor is a brand that has a huge legacy in this business, a huge legacy in this building. Excuse me, in this business. I have also heard that the tape library is up for sale, and if you're going to sell the tape library, that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, Ring of Honor has a tremendous legacy in this business, but if you sell the tape library, there goes that legacy. So, you know, like I said, to me, the evidence suggests that they just didn't have the heart to say they're folding, and they're hoping everybody forgets about it come April, and you know, whatever. But yeah, you know, definitely not a good day for wrestling. What I wanted to ask you, BQ, is, you know, what's your when you hear the name ROH, what feelings does it bring up? What thoughts or memories does it bring to mind?
So, I haven't watched Ring of Honor a whole lot in the last couple of years. I got a little more interest when EC3 showed up. There was a time where I did watch it, but it was I always found it really difficult to watch because it's not, Impact is an easy television show to watch. Ring of Honor is and to follow, I should say. Ring of Honor is not. The I don't know what day of the week it comes on, what channel. I know my DVR would record it and then I would watch it. Sometimes the episodes appeared out of order. There's no like stories. So I kind of gave up on it. But there was one point in my life where I ordered it a whole lot, all the pay-per-views. And the height of my fandom with them was when Truth Martini had the House of Truth. I think it was
I
House of
remember
Truth.
seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had, Jay Lethal, and Jay Lethal at the time was like undefeated, had 2 titles, he had Taylor Hendricks with him, who I like a lot. And then Moose was there too with Stokey Hathaway and Beta Scott, like there was at that time I was really, really into it. Around the time Moose left, I kind of started losing interest and but I hope I hope everything works out for Ring of Honor. What Lewis was telling me, every article I've seen has said the same exact shit. But what he told me was that they're gonna basically do what they were before and run as an independent promotion. So they're not gonna have like a talent roster. They'll bring in people for taping, for certain sets of shows or whatever. That's what I'm understanding from him. And he's usually, understands that kind of stuff really well. I think it's good for them to step back and imagine. There was times where I said Impact needed to do that. I was like, they need to step away and just say, you know what, we're gonna take a step backwards, give them some filler content, because you remember there was the time where Jeff Jarrett came and then he left, and it was like the worst era that Global Force impacted Global Force back
They
to
had
back.
me
Like
on the ropes. I
it
was
was
on the
bad.
ropes.
It
I
was
was on the ropes. I'm
so
not gonna lie. I was at that time in Impact history. I was on the ropes. I was like, yo, you know what? I just don't need this. Like, you know what I mean? Like a TV show I watch for enjoyment shouldn't be giving me fucking anxiety.
this
You know
bad.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Every time I read something about how bad it's doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like Impact had me on the ropes.
Yeah, they had the Bound for Glory that year, which was horrible. And yeah, I was on the ropes too, and that was a time where Impact they started figuring it out as they were going, and back then I was like, yo, I think they need to just give us some content for some TNA shit. They love playing that stuff. Do it for a month and step back and figure it out.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I hope they figure it out. But they've always had a good wrestling product. It was just, I always felt that it was every single match was 0 to 100, and there was
Right.
you know, there was just no variety. Like with Bound for Glory, there was lots of variety throughout the show.
Right.
Ring of Honor, it was never like that, so it was a little
Right.
fatiguing for me to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope
Yeah.
they figure it out. But it sounds like they're pretty much folding as we know them. And
Yeah.
um, before you give your thoughts, whatever, the one big difference between ROH and Ring of Honor, because there was a time where ROH was,
Between ROH and Ring of Honor.
I'm sorry, ROH and Impact, sorry.
Okay.
There was a time where ROH and Impact were, pretty even playing field, and then
Mm-hmm.
there was a point where ROH overtook Impact
Mm-hmm.
for a while. They did for a while, and then they obviously lost a lot of their talent to AEW. They're big stars, so how do you bounce back after that? But one of the main differences between the two companies is that Impact has they secured so many overseas deals years ago, mainly the India one, and I don't think they have a UK one, but that was one of their more lucrative ones. If that India deal didn't exist, Impact wouldn't exist.
Wow.
Like, because I believe they make 7 million a year off that. If I remember last time I heard, I don't know how accurate the number is, but there were certain TV deals that were keeping the company going.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even though they were doing the Impact Zone tapings, not making any money off them, I think they
Mm-hmm.
were paying to do the show.
Interesting.
Now they have a lot more revenue coming in.
Yeah.
Ring of Honor, they've been we're doing empty arena shows, and they were in a similar situation where they weren't bringing anything in. And I
Yeah.
think they give a living wage to their wrestlers. I don't think they do.
Mm.
I'm not saying they're rich, but I do think they pay
Right.
them as full-time talent.
Yeah.
Not like where Impact just pays a handful of people. Like they can pay Impact can pay that handful of people a lot more,
Right.
but I think Ring of Honor had a more even, you know,
Right.
playing field.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I get it. Yeah. So you guys know I'm long-winded. I'll try to keep it condensed here. When it comes to me and ROH, I'm pretty sure ROH materialized around the time when I wasn't watching wrestling, which is like 2002 to like 2006 ish, something like that. That's time I was in college, and let's just say I had more fun things to do than watch wrestling. So so there was time when I was kind of out of the wrestling loop for a while, but that's when the tape trading thing came along, and I would hear little things because that was also around the time I started seeing wrestling websites. And again, as for somebody who wasn't regularly watching the product, it was interesting from time to time to read a little something just to keep up with the news. Then once I got a couple of glimpses of Ring of Honor, and when I saw it, I was like, "Ew," you know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah, it
"Yeah,
looks
this is just
horrible.
like it looks really low budget, no production value. Like, who are these dudes?" And I just wasn't into it. I didn't even really give it a chance. It just wasn't for me, which is terribly ironic when you look at Impact now. But and then right, I saw Impact, I saw TNA, and the production value was much higher. They were coming out of the Impact Zone. It was a well-lit show full of fans going crazy. It's like, okay, this is a wrestling product I could mess with. I like this. Then they had some old stars that you recognize, and they had the perfect storm. So I never really got into ROH. And the only time I actually watched ROH was when they were the lead-in for Impact on Destination America. And so I was able to kind of watch and go, because I'm just a big wrestling fan, you know what I mean? I watch damn near anything at least once or twice, you know what I mean?
Right.
But being that it was just the lead-in for Impact, I was like, yo, this is it. This is for me. I'm good. This is just give me this, a night full of wrestling. And so I got a chance to see the product a little bit then. Before then, I had seen a couple of things. Like I remember there was a lot of hype going on for a big Kevin Steen match. And I think I like found a stream of it, and I saw some of it online. I was like, okay, this is cool. It was different, but again, it looked really low budget, and I was just like, okay, whatever, whatever. Um, but then, like I said, I saw it when it was on Destination America, and I really, really liked the Kingdom. I thought Mike Bennett and Matt Taven with Maria was just such a great act. I just thought it was a phenomenal act, and I really wanted them to come to Impact. So then when Mike and Maria signed with Impact, I was like, come on, Matt Taven, put the act back together.
Right.
And that never happened, and Mike and Maria didn't go as I hoped it would in Impact. But that I saw that just to say that I was never an ROH guy. But one thing I always noticed was that the loyalty that Ring of Honor fans had was unwaning. You know what I mean? I knew that was why people loved Seth Rollins. I knew that was why people loved Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. Like, I knew how much people were into what was happening there and how they wanted so badly to see it on the big stage of WWE. And I knew that's why people loved Adam Cole and all of this stuff. And then I checked Ring of Honor out again when Cody left WWE, and then I heard he won the Impact World title. I was like, okay, I gotta see this match. And I checked it out, and everything was just like too fast, no selling. I was like, man, this is just not for me. I was
he won the ROH World title.
Right. Yeah, the ROH World. What did I say?
Impact.
Oh, sorry. Yes, the ROH World title. And I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. But again, to each their own, right? Like, they had a very specific style, a very specific product. Their fans knew it, they loved it, and more power to them. And then, like, here's what really happened to ROH. Okay, NXT happened to ROH.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Vince, Triple H, really not really Vince. Triple H looked around at the landscape, and he realized that outside of WWE, the most passion and dedication of fans was for Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
And he made it his mission to kill the indies, specifically Ring of Honor. So he made his own Ring of Honor and called it NXT. And they ripped off Ring of Honor's product, and they gave it high production value. And damn it, it was good. That era of NXT from, when did I start watching? Gosh, 2014. I probably started watching around 2014, 2015, up through, I would say, NXT kind of jumped the shark for me probably in like 2018. I was over it. It was too much for me. But that era of NXT was phenomenal. It was so good. And I see why Ring of Honor fans liked it, because if that was the experience they were having, then it was dope. I loved it. But yeah, like, that was the whole entire goal there, right? Was to cut Ring of Honor's legs out, and they did. They took, most, if not all, of the, big time talent that they had in Ring of Honor, and they, put WWE shine on them, paid them WWE money, and it was over for Ring of Honor. And I'm sure that a lot of fans who were fans of Ring of Honor probably said, man, this is just a better version of Ring of Honor. Why do I need the original? And then the pandemic hit. Like, look, this was happening before the pandemic. Like, let's be honest. Ring of Honor was waning in popularity. The attendance was going way down. But yeah, then the pandemic hit, and they couldn't have people in the buildings. And I thought Impact was the last people to get people back at shows. I don't think Ring of Honor still has had people back at shows. Have they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think they're still taping their weekly TV without people in the stands. So, it's tough, man. Like, you got to make some money at some point. So, yes. So I said all that to say, like I said, I never have really watched Ring of Honor, but I know how passionate people were about that time. The time when they met Seth Rollins, the time when they met Daniel Bryan and Samoa Joe, and the time they met CM Punk. Like, that will live forever in the hearts of the people who were there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that feeling of you had to be there. You know what I mean? So, I wish all the best for those guys. This is sad news for the wrestling business. And I'm interested to see what's next because, like they say, every time one door closes, another one opens. So, I'm very interested to see, what comes next out of this. So good luck to everybody who is moving on, transitioning to another phase of their career. And yeah. How about we move on? How about we transition?
Let's do it. Let's do that.
All right. So the biggest Impact story last week was Impact had its biggest show of the year, Bound for Glory. Now, I know you did a Bound for Glory review, but real quick, just for the people, in case anybody didn't see it, what was your biggest takeaway coming out of Bound for Glory?
My biggest takeaway is that the show having a they weren't particularly loud as far as how we heard it on TV, but having a great sized crowd and just changing the aesthetics up a little bit, it made it so much easier to watch for me. But overall, I just thought it was a good show. A lot of people didn't like it. So my biggest takeaway is that I really want people to know that fantasy booking is poison. It'll be the death of wrestling, the death of wrestling fandom. People were expecting a lot of surprises, and I said from day one regarding, I don't know what I said about Buddy Murphy, but about Bray and Braun, I said I will believe it when I see it. When I see them show up in the Impact Zone, I will believe that they're part of the company. I never felt they were going to show up. I just didn't. I felt they were too big for the company. I don't mean to. I love Impact. Okay, I know I'm super critical. I wouldn't be sitting here every night and doing this pod and doing it for years if I did not love this company. I have a love-hate relationship with it, but I love this company. But I'm also a realist. I know what kind of caliber wrestlers are going to show up and which ones aren't. So if those guys pop up at some point, awesome. But just I don't want people to get so caught up in fantasy booking and who they think is going to show up and who they want to show up and shit like that. Because if it doesn't play out, then you're just going to be disappointed and not going to enjoy the show. Now, I blame Impact a little bit because Scott D'Amore was, he had his little drunken rant where he started dropping names and, they knew all these teasers about who was going to show up. That Iceman dude was like, we're going to have a big surprise at Bound for Glory, a very large surprise. He was insinuating Braun was going to show up. Maybe he meant the Demon. I don't know. Who is a big dude. But, I don't know that's so much a takeaway, but that's just my overall the overall gist for me was that I enjoyed the show, but that I think too many fans played things out in their head that they thought were going to happen and they didn't happen, and then they were disappointed, then they didn't enjoy the show.
Yeah. All right. So fans set themselves up for disappointment, not allowing themselves to enjoy the show. For me, my biggest takeaway coming out of the show was they got it right. They got it right. Now listen, I have documented my issues with Moose here on the podcast. But that said, I'm happy to see him get a shot. I'm happy to see Moose get a shot to run with the world title. And I thought the way they did it was absolutely excellent because that crowd was dead. That crowd was dead. Like it was such a sucker move to put the show on at 10 p.m. after, so you're not competing with Dynamite. I mean, look, if they believe that this was going to get them, a few more paid viewers, then go for it. But I think you're asking that crowd to stay up really late, man, and to give you energy really late. And that match between Josh Alexander and Christian Cage, that was one that needed a lot of energy, and the crowd just didn't have it. And they won the crowd over. They were getting the crowd into it. But by the end, the crowd was just spent. They were spent, and they thought they knew what was coming in terms of Josh Alexander winning. So I think that the finish of that match didn't feel like a huge surprise, although it was a good finish. But then I thought the way that they sold it on commentary, that this is such a great moment, and young man, come in the ring with your dad. And then Moose comes in with a trophy, and John's like, wait, what? Spear.
Oh,
That was dope, man. That was really dope, and you could hear the crowd. The crowd went crazy. It was an unexpected surprise, and they loved it, and I loved it. I thought it was a great way to end the show, get people talking coming into the next day. So kudos to you, Scott D'Amore, and whoever else is in charge of planning. I thought that was great way to end the show. And it really it set it up going forward. Right now, you got Josh Alexander, who was your hero, who brought the Impact title back from AEW's clutches, but the problem is you didn't properly build this hero. You didn't have enough time, all because they ripped Kenny Omega from our clutches. And so,
right.
And so it was a little anticlimactic. You know what I mean? It was a little anticlimactic. And when he won, it was like, yeah, we kind of knew this was coming. But now, all of a sudden, in a matter of a few minutes, he goes from from conquering hero to a little bit of a disappointment to now he's on the chase. Now he's on the chase, and Moose is evil. And he came out and cut a promo that got the whole Twitter talking about Moose and what he said on the next night on Impact. So shout out to Impact. You got it right. You got it right. So I give them guys credit. So Impact got the finish of Bound for Glory right. Here's something we got right. We gave out awards. We gave out awards for who did well and who didn't do well, who looked good, who didn't look good, what was a good decision, what was a bad decision. These are the first ever Bound for Glory Loungies. It's the Loungies, the Loungy Awards, courtesy of the Impact Lounge. And we are going to have some categories here. So everybody out there, hit record on your screens, okay? And you can start sharing these to if you think these awards are good, if they're bad, if you think they're smart, if you totally agree with them, you can share these to social media. Be like, listen to this idiot TW and what he said, all right? So hit record, and now it's time for the Loungies. All right, BQ. The first Loungy award goes for best moment at Bound for Glory. Who gets your award for best moment?
So I know you're really gonna disagree with this. My best moment. I'm not gonna say it was the best moment overall, but it was for the sake of being a little bit different. Was actually the Iconics entrance. So the reason I say this, first of all, the promo was real bad. They shouldn't have done the promo, but no Bound for Glory show has started off like this in a really. I can't even think of one. Like I mean, we've had Bound for Glory start off with Ken Shamrock versus Madman Fulton. You know what I mean? So the way that the lights went out and then the music hit, and they released the song earlier in the day so people knew what it sounded like, which we laughed at the video and made fun of it. But as I listen to the song now, I find it a little more catchy. At first listen, I was like, what the hell is this? But the inspiration, like I can dig it. So anyway, so just the way the lights went out and we just jumped into a debut, of two girls who were they didn't have them on TV. They had them sending correspondence and stuff like that. And then the fans were very happy to see him too. And it was a different moment for me that I just hadn't felt on an Impact pay-per-view before. I don't know why. It was just an element that was just kind of missing one way or another, good or bad. I don't know, but it was just the way the lights went out, the music hit, the entrance, the energy. It was just very different. As I said, we started off Bound for Glory with Madman Fulton versus again Shamrock and the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. Like this was just different.
Good point. Okay, fine. That's fine. Yeah, I mean that was something. All right. my best moment of the night goes to the moment I was just talking about. It goes to Moose for cashing in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet Trophy at the end of the match, the world title match between Christian Cage and Josh Alexander. For all the reasons I just described, I mean, like I said, and the biggest reason is because that crowd was dead. That crowd was dead. When Josh Alexander came out, it sounded like a golf clap, not like the main event of a story that's been building for months and months and months. And so thank God they made that move, because that move I think actually saved the show. The Moose cash in gets my best moment of the night.
I'm going to
All right,
touch on something real quick with
shoot.
Josh Alexander. I've been talking about this for a while. He needs a good entrance theme that when that shit hits, the Stone Cold, The Rock, guys like that, when in the first second who's coming down to the ring, and it elicits energy from the crowd. His doesn't do that. His theme doesn't even come close.
No.
It's almost depressing. Sound like Trey Miguel is a great, like, he doesn't, maybe at the beginning doesn't have like a hit there. Oh, it's Trey Miguel, but his entrance and his theme and the way he comes out, that gets you pumped up. Like Josh
It's all
Alexander
super
just
high
comes down
energy.
to ominous tones, dong, dong, and then he just fixes the headband and comes out. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a big time entrance.
Right. Right. And I've talked about this before. I think even that entrance could be a little better if you just did a few things, make them wait to come out, let the music hit for a little while before he hits the stage, make people wait for it, walk down to the ring, give, that evil stare to whoever's in the ring, whatever. Just slowing it down, I think, could make the entrance feel a little better. Do some fun stuff with the lights, like they could produce that entrance to be a little better. This, fair or not, the best comp that I can ever think of for Josh Alexander is Kurt Angle. And think about it. Think about how heavily produced Kurt Angle's presentation was. You know what I mean? Like just think about when that Kurt Angle music hits.
Yeah, you're referring to the WWE entrance though.
I mean, but so yeah, okay, right. But what's so hard about just picking better music, right? Better music that elicits more feeling, more emotion. You know what I mean? Like that music. If you had never heard of Kurt Angle, that music just screams like hero. You know what I mean? If somebody told you like this is like a glorious hero, like, oh man, this is the music. Yes, this is the music for this guy. And so I think they've got to do a better job producing in that way. It's totally doable. I totally agree. They can produce the elements around Josh Alexander to make him feel like a bigger deal. He does a good job with everything. The wrestling is phenomenal.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Even his promos are better than people think they are. You know what I mean? Like, he really, we talked about it last week with the promo at the end of the show between him and Christian in the ring. He talked the crowd up. But I just think that, like, in general, they have to do something to make him feel like more of a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the second loungy of the war of the night is going to be for worst moment of the night. And for my worst moment of the night, I'm going to stick in the same match. Now, I thought about I thought about going somewhere else with this, but for me, I'm going to give the worst moment of the night to, I'm torn. But okay, I'll give you my winner. My winner for worst moment of the night was Josh Alexander's entrance in the main event. When his music hit and it was just quiet, I was like, is there something wrong with the audio? And just heard like a couple of claps. I was like, bro, this does not feel like a main event. I was like, give me my money back. Just like it was a real killer. It was a real killer. So that goes down as my worst moment of the night. What do you got for your worst moment of the night? Who gets the loungy?
The loungy goes to the demon coming out during the Call Your Shot gauntlet.
That was my backup, by the way. I was debating.
All right, so again, we talked about people think Braun is coming, they think that Bray is coming, they think Buddy is coming, and Buddy to me was a little more realistic. we think these guys are showing up, or maybe even it's some just mid Carter that we completely forgot about. You know, maybe it's the dude from Heavy Machinery. You know what I'm saying? Like just someone just out of left field. The music hits, the demon name pops up, and I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. I thought maybe it's some kind of new nickname for someone or
Yeah.
whatever. And then this dude steps out, and I said, "Here's our Hornswoggle of the match." Who was Swoggle was in the last two Go Call Your Shot gauntlets. And I did say when I previewed the show, I said, you know what, we're gonna get three surprises. One of them will probably be a comedy character, and he wasn't necessarily comedy when he came in the ring, but when he engaged with Swinger, right away I was like, okay, he's gonna be at the set of Impact tapings, and he's gonna do a program with Johnny Swinger.
Mm.
Uh, it just They said that they booked Bronson Reed for the show and then had to unbook him.
Mm.
I guess because they didn't have. I don't know the reason why. It could be because they had too many people. Maybe he was supposed to be in the gauntlet, and then but
Interesting.
I'll say, you know what, Bronson Reed, you're one of the up and coming big men in wrestling. We're gonna need you to stay home. The demon already. He's already here. He's ready to go. He's got his face paint on. You know, and he was in the match way too long. He was in the match longer than Rocky Romero was. They tossed Rocky Romero out like he was a piece of garbage when he was eliminated. And then the Demon was in there like it was kind of like the number one contender, or the battle royal to see who was going to draw 1 in 20. The
Yeah.
Undead Brides were in there almost the entire match. Like they were in the last like 6, I think, or something.
That's
I'm like,
hilarious.
what are they doing? We just watched Brandy get squashed in 2 minutes on Knockout to Knockdown, and now she's lasting in the battle royal with a bunch of dudes.
Right.
Um, so this moment, we'll see. He's obviously going to wrestle on Impact instead of tapings. I'm not going to say that maybe I'll enjoy what he does. I'm not going to completely write it off, but it was just
Right.
it was one of those moments no one was asking for it. This episode of Impact, Gia Miller's like, I don't, nobody saw this coming. I know I didn't. Like, of course we didn't. Like, that was completely out of left field. Like,
That's
who's
true.
Glacier coming out next? Like, yeah, I mean, come on, dude.
Right.
So
Uh,
very prestigious
um.
there.
All right. So now you gave us your worst moment of the night. Now give us the Loungy for best match of the night.
My best match of the night was the X Division match with Trey, uh, El Phantasmo, and Steve Macklin. I just thought it was nice to get a three-way match. I would love a one-on-one X Division title match. I would love it on a pay-per-view. But it wasn't a six-way. It wasn't Ultimate X or nothing like that. It was just, let's have a little mini tournament. 3 guys wrestle. And at first, when Steve Macklin joined the company and said, I'm here for the X Division Championship, he got a promo saying that. I'm like, that's kind of odd because he doesn't really have that style. He does have some cool moves that he does. But I thought the match played out really well in the way that it was laid out because you had essentially 3 different styles. I mean, you could argue Phantasmo and Trey mesh very well, but Macklin's style was very different than theirs, and
Yeah.
they really found a way to make it all fit.
Mhm.
It wasn't like you had these 2 guys with completely different styles
Right.
and the match sucked. You know what I mean? I mean, because we see matches like that sometimes. I didn't know what to expect from it, and they did a couple moves that we never seen before. So that was my match tonight, the X Division title, and
Nice. Nice.
the right guy won too.
Yes. Yes. 100%. My match of the night is going to the Knockouts Championship match between Deonna Purrazzo and Mickey James. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was absolutely excellent. And I think it's a great example of not having to do too much, right? I mean, they did plenty, but it wasn't like, they weren't out there trying to kill themselves in terms of like they weren't like, doing triple dives and Spanish flies and like they didn't have to do all that. They had a great match. They had a great match and I like Mickie James winning. Deonna has had a great run. She's elevated that title. She's elevated herself. It's been good for she's elevated the knockouts division. And I think Mickie James was a great person to take that title off of her. And also one of the reasons I kind of felt like why Mickie James was potentially going to win was because I thought that Tasha Steelz, they're heating Tasha Steelz up. So I was like, Tasha Steelz is probably next, and Tasha Steelz is not going to be next against Deonna Purrazzo. So I thought that Mickie James had a good shot to win that one. But I thought the match was excellent. They didn't do too much, and like I said, Mickie won with her reverse DDT or her spinning DDT, and it was a good match, man. To me, that was my match of the night, and I thought it was tough for Josh Alexander and Christian Cage to go on after that because the crowd was just spent from that match. So they got Sean and Takered. or they Sean and Takered Josh Alexander and Christian Cage. All right, so that was my match of the night. Now I'm going to go to the worst match of the night. And I was torn on this one too. I was a little torn on this one, but I'm going to give the worst match of the night to the Impact Tag Team title match. The three-way between Finjuice and the Good Brothers and the Bullet Club. Listen, man, Chris Bay is a super duper duper star. I think they need to just be featuring him, putting him in matches where he's getting big moments. They should have won this. You know what I mean? Like, Impact has a real chance right now to feature a lot of those young new stars. And I think putting the titles on Chris Bay and Hikuleo, I thought that would have been a good move. I thought it would have been a really good move. And I just didn't think that keeping the title on the Good Brothers, the match did nothing for me. It really felt like it was just kind of buried in the show. And there was nothing about the match that really stood out to me. So I'm not saying it was a bad match per se. It just did nothing for me. Who was your... Oh, did you want to say something about that?
I was going to say, the Bullet Club, you can't have them losing for the tag team titles. Like, I'm sorry. Even if you have them win it later, you already had them lose once before. Like, Chris Bay's one of the hottest things going. The Bullet Club's always been one of the hottest things going. Put the fucking belts on them. Like, what are you doing? They even took the loss in the match. So the match did nothing for everyone. And every tag team title match.
Finjuice.
Yeah. Every tag team title match at every Impact Plus show or every pay-per-view has always been a multi-team tag match. And you don't have tag teams. So why can't you just tell a story with two teams?
Why can't you just tell us who wins your worst match of the night? Who wins your Loungy for worst match of the night?
Worst match of the night for me was Violent by Design versus Heath and Rhino. I don't know that Rhino was supposed to be the partner for this match. I think that, I just talked about fantasy booking, but I feel like there's a possibility that Rhino wasn't going to show up and someone else was going to show up to team with Heath. I felt that was a possibility. But you remember our last cool factor, I did say either that's going to happen or Heath is going to go out there and get his ass kicked by himself. And then, Rhino will come out. And that's what happened. So, and you said, it's probably what's going to happen. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm not sold that was the plan, but I don't know either way. But
yeah, that felt like the story all along to me. To me, that felt like the story all along.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I just didn't enjoy the match. I just didn't think it was like an Impact. It was a match that it should just been on Impact. It just wasn't. Nothing just grabbed me that it was like, this is a pay-per-view match. They had a story that they wanted to finish, I guess you could say.
Right.
Well, the story's not done, but the story was the story, not the match, not the wrestling.
Right.
And I think it was because Rhino came out so happy, like a Make-A-Wish kid. That's why I was like, dude, I don't know that this was what they were supposed to do, because he was the complete opposite of before.
Yeah.
And I've been pointing out the finisher. I've had this finisher narrative lately.
Right.
2 matches in a row here end with the spear. The Collier Shot Gauntlet and this match. Both end with a spear. Moose also wins with a spear later in the night, and Christian Cage hits a spear in the match. So uh, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna always point that out when I see it. But this match was like super boring to me, and
Yeah,
I do like I shouldn't say I like Heath. I'm more interested in seeing what he can do with Impact
yeah.
now that he's just there to wipe the slate clean. So I have interest when he comes out, but I was pretty much bored throughout this match.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I don't know if NXT is going to do takeovers the way they used to do, but I think that like there were too many candidates for worst match of the night for this to have been such an important show in terms
Yeah, I
of their
agree.
calendar. There were too many options for match of the night, for worst match of the night, and I think that if NXT is not going to be doing the takeovers like they used to, I think Impact should really jack that format and apply it to the Impact pay per views. I mean, like it was such a good formula, man. Like honestly, during that NXT run that I was talking about, you didn't even really have to watch the weekly show. If you only caught the takeovers every 3 months, you could sit down, be entertained as hell, and leave satisfied, and come back in 3 months for the next takeover and be entertained as hell again. And because they had it pared down to like 4 or 5 good ass matches, balls to the wall, and you just leave satisfied. It's like 2 hours or whatever, and it's just like, damn, that was some good wrestling. And like to me, that's the format, man. That's the format to go with. And I think like you can't do that for 8 matches or 10 matches. You know, just give us your best. You know what I mean? Give us like give us a grudge match, give us uh, a mid card title match, give us a tag team title match, and give us a world championship match. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I think that's your card. And I think what you do is you create competition amongst everyone on the card to let us be the grudge match, whatever.
Right.
Anyway, that's fantasy booking. But anyway,
No, yeah,
my
I agree with that.
yeah. So you gave us your best match of the night and your worst match of the night. Who gets the loungy for best performance of the night? So best individual or individual act performance of the night.
Best individual performance. I'm gonna give it to Josh Alexander, and not so much for the wrestling, but for. Uh, so we talked about this a couple weeks ago. That video package he did. I said I was bored to tears listening to it. And not saying he was a bad promo. I thought he was delivering his lines and everything, but I've never felt a emotional connection to Josh Alexander, not even a little bit. I was just always like, there's a guy who can wrestle, and that was my concern when they signed him. Back then, I said, "Yo, I think this guy's a blue chipper. He's one of the best wrestlers you could sign." But I said, I'm afraid he's too vanilla for the product, and vanilla was just for lack of better term because I don't consider him vanilla. It was just my way of saying uh, I just don't see a character within him. Like I just see a guy, you know, dressed the way he does and going out
Yeah.
there putting good matches. I was like, I don't see him cutting promos and everything. Um, I connected with Josh Alexander on this pay per view in a way that I never did.
Mm,
His emotion when he won the match, and then the legit look of almost horror when he saw Moose cashing in, and then where he turned around and he had to like get his family out of the ring,
yeah.
and then he turns around and just takes an immediate spear. I was just like, dude, I've he just showed so much emotion as a
Yeah.
performer. And then we'll talk about the episode of Impact where I continue to connect with him through the episode the couple times he was on. So it just for me it was a big turning point in his career. So now he's not just a good wrestler; he's a little bit more of a character for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, no, I think you're right, and I totally agree. Like we said, I think the way they ended the show not only gave us, a world champ that, for as much junk as I talk about how they killed all the equity they built up in Moose, wrong. Okay, because when Moose did that, it was credible. You know what I mean? It was credible. And you look back to the match with Kenny Omega, in which I still think he sold too much for Kenny Omega, but they protected him in that finish. You know what I mean? And so you can't be like Kenny Omega just beat him. And this is what it was all for. You know what I mean? This is what it was all for. So yeah, I totally agree. And ultimately, by screwing over Josh Alexander like that, you create the potential for him to become the biggest babyface in the company. So now they're going to build to where you do have that emotional connection with Josh Alexander. My performance of the night is going to Trey Miguel. And, we talked earlier how that X Division championship match was, your match of the night. There was a part in that match that really grabbed me and made me give Trey Miguel this award. And it wasn't anything he did. Well, it was something he did, but it was when he was upside down and Macklin speared him through the ropes. I was like, dog, that's so thorough. But I don't think anybody could have really done that besides Trey Miguel. You know what I'm saying? Like, dog, I say this all the time. Trey Miguel just comes up with stuff that people wouldn't think of. You know what I mean? In the wrestling ring, like he's so dope. I can't wait to watch him like just take this X Division championship to a whole nother level. I think he's going to be a guy that's putting out matches that people are going to talk about, regardless of that it's on Impact. I think people are just going to enjoy his work, and the fact that he's going to be doing it as the X Division champion, I think that's awesome. So Trey Miguel gets my performance of the night. So you got best performance of the night. Who gets your loungy for best gear of the night?
I like the way Mickey James looked. Every time she comes out, though, I keep finding myself like, wow, she just looks amazing. Like I just keep feeling, I keep saying like, wow, she just as she ages, she just looks better and better and
Oh,
better.
she
So
fine as shit, dog. She is fine as
yeah,
shit. Mickey James,
absolutely, you know.
fine
Um,
as hell.
so
She
so
just is, dog. Like I ain't gonna start on no rant, but Mickey James is fine as hell, bro.
yeah,
She
absolutely.
just
No, she really is, man. And
is.
but every time I see her, I'm just like, God dang, dude. So she was the and just when I saw her step out, like it just that was the one that just stood out to me because I was like, she just looks great, and I don't know that her gear was like fantastic necessarily, uh, but I was digging it. I overall I just thought she looked the best.
Well, it's funny because my loungy for best gear goes to Deonna Purrazzo. I liked her purple Pope thing that she had going on. I thought it was
Yes,
dope. Deonna Purrazzo always has really good gear. And I think that to her credit, she's somebody who invests in her gear a lot. Like I know that stuff can't be cheap. And she changed her gear to something that was more, figure flattering. And
right.
I thought that was like really dope because I was like, yo, she has this dope gear, but I think if she wore something a little more flattering, it wouldn't take away from the attention of how good her gear is. And she switched it up, and I thought it was a great move. And she's in great shape. You know what I mean? She's in great shape. And so this gear she had for Bound for Glory, I just thought it was dope. I thought it was dope. She always is on point with the gear. So shout out to Deonna Purrazzo. I still hate you. Okay, you're a treacherous villain. You keep breaking people's arms, and you got what you deserved. Okay.
Heard you most. Yeah.
All right. So where we at? Okay. Oh, that was our best gear of the night, and for me, I gave you that. So worst gear of the night. My worst gear of the night goes to two people. My worst gear of the night goes to Heath and Diener, who had on basically the same pair of jeans. It was like it was. I mean, come on, man! Like y'all didn't talk about this ahead of time. I mean, like, it would have been different if y'all were in two different matches, but y'all were in the same match. Y'all had on basically the same pair of jeans. So Heath and Diener, you get my worst gear of the night.
Stay tuned for when we review Impact because I have the same complaint of a couple different matches, but very similar. Worst gear. As much as I wanted to give it to the Demon, I actually am giving it to the Inspiration, even though they were the ones that I said they had the best moment for their entrance and everything. By the way, if you haven't seen their stinger, like we didn't get a good look at her, but if you follow her Instagram, I'm trying to think what the hell it is. Like she's hot as shit. But the outfits they had just were not pay-per-view wrestling outfits to me. Like they almost came out in their pajamas, it looked like. And I was expecting a much flashier look, something similar to what the Influence would wear. You know what I mean? Like it really caught me off guard. I was like, just what an odd outfit to wear out there. So
yeah, I
that
mean
would be
it's
my guess.
interesting gear. It wasn't their best. It wasn't their best.
Yeah, they have way too
my
nice of figures for that.
my word. Oh, I'm sorry. My best booking decision of the night. Who was your best? What would you say? Who gets the Loungy for best booking decision of the night? What was the best booking decision of the night?
The best one was Trey Miguel winning the Exhibition Championship. I said this about Ace Austin, and I kind of alluded to it with Chris Bay a little bit. You can only have somebody who's one of your up and coming stars lose so many title matches.
Totally
and Trey was around for a long time, never won anything. And I really thought when they did the angle with Ace Austin with his mom and everything, I thought Trey was going to win the title in that feud. You know, I thought they were going to kind of avenge his mother, so to speak.
Yeah.
I was really shocked that he didn't win. And I think they even had a rematch that he also lost. So when they had this match, I was like, dude, they cannot drop the ball with this dude. He's everything that I say Josh Alexander doesn't have when it comes to his entrance.
Yeah.
And I made the comment too that sometimes when someone they consider like a pillar of their company seem to be the ones who don't win titles. It seems like they have the transitional people come in and win. And we see, with Jake something like this was someone we're like, dude, this is one of the guys you should be building around. He's never on the show.
Yeah.
He wrestles on BTI. He hasn't wrestled since he lost to Josh Alexander. He wasn't even on this pay-per-view. He couldn't even get in the Call Your Shot gauntlet.
That's crazy.
The Demon was in there. Melina was in there.
Right.
But you couldn't get Jake something in there. Like, it's weird. You know what I mean? So with Trey, this was his chance to win. Like, they could not have him lose another. Don't continue to have this dude chase. Like, this was your moment to win the Exhibition Championship. And I'm glad they did that instead of having Macklin win and him chasing Macklin. I just thought this was the right thing to do.
All right, that was dope, man. So my best booking decision for the third time is Moose. I thought that was actually really smart to have Moose win the Call Your Shot gauntlet. He got to screw over Morrissey. I think in our prediction, I think we both predicted that Morrissey was going to win the gauntlet. It looked like that's the way they were going, and that was a great swerve. And then to have Moose cash in that night, it completely saved the show. So my best booking decision of the night, the Loungy, goes to having Moose win the trophy and cash in at the end of the night.
Before we move on to the next one, dude, some kind of breaking news here. We're recording this on Friday night, so this was just having to do with the Ring of Honor thing. So Sinclair has actually reached a deal with Women of Wrestling to broadcast their show on weekends. So it seems like maybe that's the company they're getting in bed with now. So it's hard to believe that they're like, hey, we're going to put Ring of Honor on TV and we're going to put Women of Wrestling. And, there was some talk with whatever other channel was, because Sinclair owns a few different channels, right? That's how they operate.
Mm-hmm.
So
a bunch of channels.
Yeah,
saw, a video that was going around of this propaganda they had all their anchors spewing. But go ahead.
Okay. So I think the other one, what other company, the more major company that is going to be doing Women of Honor, um, Women of Honor. I'm sorry, Women of Wrestling. You know, a lot of Impact fans were like, "Well, why would they choose Women of Wrestling over Impact?" I just think when you sit down and talk business with Jeannie Buss, that's very different than you sitting down with Scott. I mean, not Scott Demore, but what's his name that owns a company?
I can't think of the guy's name.
I always forget his name. You know what I mean? He's not like this. Like everyone knows who Tony Khan. Tony Khan run. You know, he's like the face, one of the faces of TNT.
Yeah.
Old boy is not for Impact. um, you know what I mean?
Oh, I know you're talking about. What's this fucking guy's name?
Really showing our age here.
No, but it's right. It's just because he's not out there like that. I can't think of the guy's name, but I know who you're talking about. I can't think of the guy's name.
So sitting down talking.
Nordholm.
Yeah, Ed Nordholm.
Ed
Okay,
Nordholm.
so sitting down and talking business with Jeannie Buss, who probably bleeds money into. I don't know if bleed into is a proper term. Women in wrestling probably bleeds money. Like she probably pays them more than they have coming in. There's no doubt in my mind because it's a passion project for her. It's not. She has money. You know what I mean? Like she's extremely wealthy. She has she owns the most successful franchise in sports, most popular franchise in sports. You know what I mean? So she has money. So I think with Women of Wrestling, she's going to pump the necessary funds into there, even if she's in the red, where Ring of Honor and Impact are not going to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't feel like that's like an apples to apples trade. Like to give up Ring of Honor for WoW. Like, listen, what's Impact's number one problem?
The production value. I don't know. There's so many, dude. I don't.
Okay, what's their number two problem?
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
I'm gonna stop because I feel like we'll get to like 10 problems. But
yeah, I know.
Impact's number one problem is their brand name. The damage that has been done to their brand name has been irreparable. You know what I'm saying? Like it's they still just people still they still don't have that stink of TNA washed off of them. You know what I'm saying? Like that's their number one problem. ROH has the opposite problem. Like even though their product hasn't been what it was, the ROH loyalists they haven't turned on Ring of Honor.
Right.
Clearly they don't watch it anymore, but they haven't turned on it. You know what I mean? They recognize that it's fall, but because this is the way we do with stuff. When we like something, we treat it like it's ours, right? We treat it like we won't bash it. So you won't hear Ring of Honor fans bashing Ring of Honor and how bad it's gotten. You won't hear it. So all they had to do was turn around and put out a better product, and those people, I think, would have come right back, at least for a couple of big shows. Like they mentioned that they were doing this big show at the end of the year. And I think that the plan was, I mean, I think that what will probably happen is if they want to, they could probably pack a real arena. If they're like, yo, if they put on an advertising campaign like, yo, come say goodbye to Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
I honest to God think they could sell Madison Square Garden. I think they could sell Madison Square Garden if they put this on as Ring of Honor's farewell show. Everybody come out, you know what I mean? Like the ROH alumni, yo, bro, that would be crazy.
Yeah,
that would be crazy. Like they would make a ridiculous amount of money off of that, man. So ROH's brand name is still good in these streets, but so to say that we're gonna let ROH die and get in bed with Women of Wrestling, that doesn't sound that doesn't sound smart to me, man.
Yeah.
Listen, if Sinclair is picking it up, like that's fine. They got a bunch of local TV stations, but I don't know, man. I don't think they got out of the ROH business to get into this business. Like you said, they reached a deal. It's like a distribution deal, right? So that's not the same thing as like them being like owners in the company.
Right, correct.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's newsworthy. It's newsworthy, but I don't think it's like a direct correlation there. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like the comparison people are going to draw, the connection people are going to draw is they decided to turn their resources away from Ring of Honor and put them towards Women of Wrestling, and that doesn't seem to be. To me, that doesn't seem logical.
Fair enough.
I could be wrong though. I'm not in those rooms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not in those rooms, but they can be like, it's a new day. Yes, it is. We're going all women. All right. I think we got one more. I think we have one more loungy to give out, and that's for the worst booking decision of the night. I'll go first.
Okay.
My worst booking decision of the night is giving the Inspiration, the Impact Knockouts tag titles on their first night in the company. To me, listen, they have a good act. Their act is fun, but I think it could have used some time to build up some equity with the fans, because what they do in the ring is not good.
Right.
It's not good. And so to have Havoc and Rosemary, do the job for the Inspiration, I think would have been fine if you had some equity built up in the Inspiration, but you didn't. You know what I mean? We just know them from being on WWE TV. So to have them come in and win the tag titles on their first night in the company, I think it does nothing but shit on your tag titles.
Yeah, and you got the most, I don't want to say the most popular team because Havoc is new to the group, but Decay in general is very popular. Rosemary is very popular, and they were transitional champions. That's all they were. You know what I mean? That's kind of a slap in the face to the fans.
Yeah, and it really speaks to the the lack of a tag team division, knockouts tag team division that they really have. Like you gotta have a plan. You gotta have a plan to keep this exciting. If you're not gonna do it, there's no point in having it. Like, what's the point of having a championship if it means nothing? If the fans can't get excited about, the whole point of a championship is like it's a plot device. The championship itself is supposed to be the plot. But if no one cares about that plot, then you got to kill that plot. You know what I'm saying? Like if it doesn't serve the purpose of getting fans invested, then there's no point to it. So,
but I think it was about social media buzz because they knew if they won the titles, that was going to travel through social media very fast, which would essentially promote Bound for Glory. Which, I mean, I don't know why someone would order the pay-per-view in the middle of the show, but I mean, you still want to have headlines. You know what I mean? So.
Right. Yeah, just create buzz. I think they do a lot for buzz.
Yeah. My worst was the Good Brothers winning the tag titles. I just felt the match didn't do anything for anybody. And I know I'm going to repeat myself a little bit, but the Bullet Club does not need to be losing for the tag team titles.
Right. Totally agree.
They 100% should have won the match. They shouldn't have took the loss in the match. I mean, now you've cooled them off.
Right.
Which makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't know why they would do that. Unless it has something to do with they don't want the titles to go back to Japan or whatever it is. Or, which I don't see why the Bullet Club should be holding Impact Tag Gold. I mean, that would just be, it just makes too much sense. And now that they're spinning this off into another Good Brothers and Finjuice feud, which is like beating the dead horse with another dead horse. I mean, you're putting a hat on top of a hat at this point. Like, how many times have these guys fucking fought? Like,
oh man,
we're going right back to this. And as I said earlier, it's always these multi-tag team matches. There's no stories between two teams that are any good. We've seen AC Romero leave the company because him and Triple XL never got off the ground, literally and figuratively. Reno Scum came back and they were released, but they never got off the ground. They just didn't. You had teams, and you just didn't do anything with them. Like when your division is that small, just one feud at a time, and then move on to the next one. And while those two teams are feuding,
Impact for what they did to Reno Scum.
What's that?
So you've still never forgiven Impact for what they did to Reno
No,
Scum?
because they did it to him twice, so I'll never forgive him for that. But I'm just trying to give examples that you've got teams that you just keep throwing all your good teams into one match. You know, if they would have done a good Elite or a Good Brothers and Bullet Club feud, Finn Juice could have had a feud with somebody, and then bring Finn Juice into the fold. But it just seems like
Right.
Finn Juice wrestles the same exact matches every time they're on Impact. It's
Yeah.
either the Good Brothers or Bullet Club. There's just no variance in them. So when they come on, I have no interest. Like I'm just like, oh, here we go with these guys again, and I'm on my phone while they're wrestling. So I don't know where you go with the Good Brothers at this point. Like you don't have anyone. You just fed them the two best teams and they beat them. So like I just don't. It just didn't do anything for anybody, and the title run has been pretty boring. But I guess the bright side is that they'll be in the company about 8 more months until their contract runs out and they go to AEW. So
Right. Maybe they want to just hold it so they can drop it on the way out. Like that's Impact's favorite thing. Drop the titles on the way out.
yeah, or have them not drop the titles on the way out and have to strip them after they've already left the company.
I have to teleport to another.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So those were the Loungies, the first annual Loungies, the Bound for Glory Awards. Tell us what you thought. Drop your comments below. You know, let us know who were the winners of those categories for you. If you guys thought our takes were trash, if you thought our takes were super hot fire, go ahead and let us know what you thought of the Loungy Awards right here in the comments down below. I think now we're gonna get into this week's episode of Impact. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. This was a good it had its misses, but I thought it was a really fun episode. Last week's episode stunk up the joint. It was so freaking bad. This got back on track for me.
All right, so the fallout for Bound for Glory was this week on Access TV. We got VSK with Brian Myers and Zicky Dice versus Sam Bill. Oh, that was at BTI.
I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, nobody cares about that. VSK, just so you know, VSK and Brian Myers defeated Sam Bill. Shocker.
In a handicap match?
It seems like it. No, it was VSK with Brian Myers. So it was
Oh.
VSK versus Sam Bill.
Okay.
And after the match, Brian Myers and Zicky Dice looked to add insult to injury, but Rich Swann and Willie Mack made the save. So you know that means next week we're getting a 6-man between Rich Swann and Willie Mack and Sam Bill versus the Learning Tree.
Let me guess. VSK won with the DDT.
Let's see. VSK hits a modified DDT to win. That's correct. Yep. All right. So Moose kicked off this episode of Impact in the ring, and he cut a great promo. On his way out to the ring, okay. So after calling his shot to defeat Josh Alexander and become the new Impact World Champion at Bound for Glory, Moose kicked off the show, but before he could speak, Eddie Edwards hit the ring and attacked his rival with Kenny the Kendo Stick. The brawl spilled out to the outside where it was broken up by security. By the way, let me get a little pause here. The security that broke up the fight was a group of wrestlers from Las Vegas. Let me shout these brothers out, man. Hold on, because I just saw their act for the first time, and it's great. Yeah, it's very. These guys are called Lights Camera Faction. They work out of
That's great.
FSW Vegas, and I saw a video of somebody actually tagged you and me in a video of their act from FSW, and it's dope because their entrance is like the Marvel movie entrance. But they come out to like trap music, but it's dope. It's a dope entrance. I was like, oh, who are these dudes? As like with most indie wrestlers, they could, I'm sure if these guys were in NXT where they were getting paid to hit the gym all the time, they'd look, much more like TV ready. But as far as an indie act, like this looks dope. I feel like I want to look more up on this, and I want to see more of these dudes. So shout out to Action Braxton and the rest of the dudes from Lights Camera Faction for being Impact Security. They tweeted Moose needs to chill.
That's a great name.
Yeah, right. Lights Camera Faction. I like it. I'm into it. I want to see more.
Yeah.
All right. So if I can I shout out one more indie talent that's been catching my eye lately?
Is it Michael Jackson?
Are on who is
it? The Michael Jackson wrestler?
No,
Okay.
not the Michael Jackson. This
Just being
is
random.
the Mad Esthetician, Amber Rodriguez. I've been seeing a lot of her stuff on like Twitter lately, and it's just she's just developing this really dope character. For those who don't know, an esthetician is like the person who, if you go get like Botox and stuff like that, they're the name of like the medical person who like does the stuff to you. So she's like, trust me, I'm a professional. And she like, like pops the rubber glove. I was like, oh man, like I'm into this. I love like a good character. You know what I'm saying? Like a good character always makes me want to see more. Like I feel like the wrestling will come along with time, but I'm more into the character. Like, can you interest me with a character? When Impact was doing a lot of shows from Windsor, I used to love the guy who was like, did someone say adventure? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I love a good character, man. So shout out to those indie acts, Lights Camera Faction and Amber Rodriguez. If you guys look them up online, go check out some of their stuff. I think they're dope. Let me know what you think about these indie talents. Hopefully, maybe these are two acts that could freshen up Impact TV. You never know.
I got love for us. I got love though. I get Botox for the crow's feet, so I got love.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do. I'm 40. I'm 42. So.
And you don't look a day over 42.
Don't look a day over 43. Yep.
All right. So where was I? Okay. So they had a brawl, spilled to the outside. It was broken up by security. Moose regains himself and heads back into the ring. Moose says he has no sympathy for what he did to Josh Alexander. He says stealing from him stealing what Josh Alexander worked his entire life to achieve. Moose calls himself the greatest champion in professional wrestling. And then Josh Alexander hits the ring and gave Moose the beats. Moose quickly got up out of there and he ran. But Moose had a quote that was circulating from this promo. He said, it doesn't matter how, let me read in my Moose voice. It doesn't matter how elite you are. It doesn't matter what tribe you're the chief to. It doesn't matter if you're the boss, the man. Hell, you can add a new day to the week. I'm still the greatest champion in all of professional wrestling. That was my Moose accent. I didn't want to get mean with it, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so Moose spitting some flames. And I saw tweets from people who were at the show and they were like, yo, Moose just cut a promo. He's shooting on the New Day and Roman Reigns. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, I'm interested. And and it worked. I thought he delivered. This wasn't like a Dusty Rhodes promo, but it made headlines, it made people talk. And I think that's what you want. I think when somebody wins the world championship, the first thing they should do, anybody who wins the world championship on any show, the first time they get a microphone in their hand, they need to say, this thing makes me the number one person in this business. They need to say that. They need us to believe that they believe that, and then we will believe that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always like taken back when somebody gets that title and does not say that. They gets any title, any world championship, and they do not say, I don't care what TV show you watch. You know the last person who did this? Austin Aries. When Austin Aries won the TNA World Championship from Bobby Roode, he came on to Impact and he said something to the effect of, this makes me the best in the business. And I'm like, yes, that's what Impact needs. They need somebody out there, pumping their chest and saying that. And so shout out to Moose for doing that, man. Like, you know what I mean? I thought that was a dope move. I think any wrestler who wins a company's world title, they need to be openly proclaiming that having this title makes me the best in the business.
This was so good. So good. I thought the Eddie Edwards thing was really unnecessary initially. And later, we'll get into it. I guess I kind of get it. Well, and I'll just say it now. This episode they did a good job of painting Moose as a marked man. Where Moose did a good job of it too. Like I know it pissed off a lot of people, and throughout the episode there was people who was pissed. So, you know, they did a really excellent job with that. Initially, when Eddie came out with the kendo stick, I'm like, here we go with this again. Are we gonna get a no DQ match next week? That's right where my head is going. And then I'm like, fuck, we've been seeing Eddie and Moose wrestle for like 3 years now. Like I made a comment. It was probably about 3 months ago. We were doing a podcast, and there was a run in with Sammy and Eddie and Moose. I was like, dude, it's the same people.
Yeah.
Like 2 years later, the main event scene's the same group of guys. And that's the first thing I thought when Eddie came running down. Which I mean, I love Eddie Edwards, but but this was so good. And what I really took away from this was that, like, this is the Moose era, and what I mean is, a championship always stands out the most when a wrestler finds a way to make it their era. Like, there's a lot of wrestlers who say, "Oh, it's the me era right now," and it's whatever. Like with the Good Brothers, it's not like the Good Brothers are not transcending the Impact Tag Team titles. It's not like the era of the Good Brothers. Now, Deonna Purrazzo, it was like the Deonna Purrazzo, the Virtuosa era, and there was a big story there with no one can beat this girl. I never thought Su Young should have beat her. I think she should have been undefeated for like over a year. But they probably didn't want to do like they just had Taya Valkyrie with the long reign, so maybe that's what it was. But I just got the feeling with this promo, I was like, this is going to be a very special title reign. It's just going to be the Moose era. It's going to be very different than what we've had. And usually you do it with heels. It's a little harder with baby faces. Like, when you look at Eddie as a champion, Rich Swann as a champion, I mean, there's not much they can do besides be a fighting champion. That's just the common babyface thing. But since the heels can have so much more character, and their promos are usually a little more entertaining, I just think it's going to take the title to a new level. I'm just very ready for it.
I think they have a chance to do that, and you know what? I think they should do what WWE did with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar.
That's an example too. The Roman's current reign.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Roman's current reign, where he's just like super dominant, like almost too dominant, like it's crazy. But I would love to see Moose have that kind of run. It'd be interesting to see if he has, the chops to have the staying power for that kind of run. I think listen, in terms of if you look up and down their roster, there's not a better option in terms of somebody you could put up against any other company and say, this is our champion.
You're right.
I think it also serves as an opportunity to have Josh Alexander chasing this title for the next year. Yeah. I would do that too. I would have Josh Alexander jumping through hoops and then get to Moose and lose, then jump through hoops and get to Moose and lose. And then Bound for Glory next year, Josh Alexander saying, if I can't beat you, I'll retire, or something like that. And then maybe have him beat Moose. But I think, you're right though. You're right. I think I say the same thing I said about the Josh Alexander Kenny Omega story. You have a chance to really make two people. You know what I mean? Establish Moose as your dominant champion. And if you bring in Braun Strowman, Moose needs to beat him. If you bring in Bray Wyatt, Moose needs to beat him. If you bring in Buddy Murphy, Moose needs to beat him. Okay? Like, he's a guy that people identify as an Impact guy. Like, I know he was in ROH, but I think everybody knows he was like a developmental guy in ROH. And he has really grown and blossomed and changed right in front of our eyes right here in Impact. And so now he's in his, his final form, and let him run, let him reign. You know what I mean? Let's see what he can do.
All right. Yeah.
So moving on, Minoru Suzuki arrives in Impact and goes face to face with Josh Alexander. As after Moose clears the ring, Suzuki comes out, just looks Josh Alexander in the eyes, and they just start hitting each other. So, crazy people want to fight, which also tells me that they're not going directly back to Moose versus Josh Alexander.
Very smart.
Suzuki seems to be the detour. Interesting. Matt Cardona confronts Moose in the backstage area where he tells him that he doesn't respect the way he won the Impact World title. Tensions boil over once again as another brawl breaks out between these two. All right. Next, we got X Division champion Trey Miguel versus Rocky Romero for the X Division title. Trey Miguel puts his newly won X Division title on the line up against New Japan Pro Wrestling veteran Rocky Romero. Trey plants Romero face first into the apron with unique offense. Trey remains in control with the springboard moonsault to the floor. Romero comes back with a Hurricane Rana on the outside, followed by a modified cutter for 2. Trey fights out of an armbar and hits a sit-down power bomb to create some separation. Trey hits the Meteora, but Romero rolls through into a half Boston Crab. Trey hits a brainbuster, followed by a successful Meteora to retain the X Division Championship. This was all action. What'd you think about this? Oh, well, wait a minute. After the match, Macklin blindsides Trey and lays him out with a running spear in the corner. Macklin makes a point that Trey didn't pin him to win the X Division Championship at Bound for Glory. What'd you think of this right here?
So the first thing I want to say before the match was that prior to this match happening, and they had Matt Striker and D'Lo talking, they have a new setup, which is very professional looking. I thought the episode looked a little crisper. I was talking not too long ago that the episodes were starting to look a little blurry to me. I thought this one was a little sharper. But their setup is much more professional. It still has a da-na, da-na-na-na-na in the background, and clearly they're not going to change that. Like clearly they're not. But at least the visual looked a lot better. I did want to comment before I do this because we've had a talking segment up to this point. I noticed it during the ring announcing at Bound for Glory and the episode. They're using some kind of Radio Shack microphone because all through Bound for Glory, when he was doing the ring entrances, distorted as shit. And it was on this episode too. And when Mickie James was cutting her promo later, distorted. Madison Rayne sounded fine. It was the same microphone, but she sounded okay. But I've just been noticing it. When I reviewed Knockouts Knockdown, I said something similar. I thought maybe it's just my ears playing with me, but I felt that, and I just, for someone who's done audio engineering for a while, I hear it maybe more than others do, but I felt that at Knockouts Knockdown, it was a little distorted. I thought the episode was too loud, and that I actually had to turn the volume down on my phone because the audio levels were peaking to my ears.
Yeah.
So, I continue to knock the way that the show is edited and put together.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna stop.
It makes me wonder, like, what is so hard about just having your commentary team there to do the commentary as you're taping the show? Like, I know you're taping a bunch of shows. You're getting a lot of content there, but like, why not just do your commentary during the show? Like, I mean, maybe it could be a thing where the guys who do commentary are doing another job backstage during the show. That could be what's going on there. But to me, I just feel like you would get much better sound quality. And again, I can't emphasize enough. Like, I don't think that these Impact shows are that much less loud than the NXT shows or the AEW shows. I just think that when they edit it in post-production, they have to, like I said, turn the crowd volume down so they can add in the announcer volume, which is done after the fact. If you go back and listen to Bound for Glory, right, the announcer's sitting right there at ringside, so I'm pretty sure it sounds a lot better. It sounds a lot more loud, doesn't it? I mean, like, go back and watch this to make sure. I could be wrong. Go back and check it, double check me. But I think that's what the problem is. Like I said, they have to lower the natural in-arena volume so they can add in the volume of the announcers in post-production. To me, the solution is just to do your commentary as you're taping the show. That way you don't have to do that. So I mean, and until they do that, like I don't think there's any way around this. So I don't know.
The other thing I want to point out before I start talking about this match, I've actually been wanting to talk to you about this. So I've been noticing, and this is from a visual standpoint, and I've pissed off people within the company talking about it looks like amateurs put this show together. So the backstage segments, it was really bad this episode, but I've been increasingly see it, is that they're so poorly lit that you see the wrestler's shadow behind them on the wall. Now you work in television. I don't know if you deal with lighting at all. I have some experience dealing with lighting. The lighting should be set up in a way that it illuminates what you're doing, but you don't see a shadow against the wall, because that is it comes off very low budget. Even for YouTubers, I watch a lot of videos about content creators and everything, and they, some people really struggle with lighting because they said you can see my shadow against the wall. People say, okay, well, you got to come from this angle and stuff like that, and then they find it and it's nice and bright, but then there's nothing dark behind them. And it was like every backstage segment that wasn't against the Impact backdrop was just very poorly lit. So I don't know if you deal with that in television at all. Like anything.
I mean, it's a thing right now. If I was producing a show, I'd have to notice it. I have no choice but to notice it. But that's the type of thing that also, as you're going through it on the, in the setup of a show, sometimes you ask yourself, like, is the viewer ever going to notice this at home? You know what I mean? But there's the few educated viewers who actually have an eye for this type of thing. You know what I mean? Of course, yes, they'll know it, right? Like, the thing about, like, once you learn how to make television, you can't unsee mistakes. You know what I mean? Like, you can't. And so I get that. I think most people won't notice that. Like, I didn't even notice it until you pointed out. I never even thought to notice it. But I mean, yeah, right? It's a lighting thing, right? Because it's not just do I have good lighting? It's like the positioning of the lighting, right?
The positioning,
like if you put like some lights in front and some lights overhead, that'll negate the shadows going like back, or like some on this side, some on this side. You know what I mean? Like there's ways to do it. It's science, but there's a science to lighting, yes. And look, man, if you want to have a high quality production, you got to hire the right people. It is what it's
like. I've got a light.
They don't know what they're doing. I'm not suggesting that at all, but I mean, the thing that makes WWE work so well is that Vince McMahon rules with an iron fist. And so if people aren't up to his standard and only his standard, then it's just not going to work. That's why you see, you know what I mean? People, women, men, whoever who wrestle in WWE, they are in their best physical shape all the damn time, all the time. And the reason why is because if one person says you don't look good enough for TV, your ass ain't going on TV. Okay. And
what happened to Mike Bennett.
Yeah.
Showed up out of shape.
Oh, well, it was something, you know what I mean? Whatever it was something that didn't catch Vince's eye, right? Like I've heard it said that Vince really didn't like Christian's face. Like I heard it said that like Vince pitched to have Christian do work with a blue dot over his face. Like super disrespectful. But that's what it is there. You know what I mean? That's what it is there. It's Vince's sandbox, and if you want to play, you got to go by the rules. And Impact doesn't have anybody ruling with an iron fist like that. Like, I mean, like, again, I'm not there, right? I don't work there. I don't know what Scott D'Amore does and doesn't do, but he's not setting those type of dictator standards, because even though that I'm sure makes it a miserable place to work, the product comes out, mwah, okay? Right. Like the production is second to none, because nobody wants to mess up, because you're working for a madman who will fire your ass on the spot and replace you before you hit the door. So
it's like the detail with Dr. Ross. And it's not a shot at him. he's done multiple on-screen roles, and then
Right.
the guy who's Danny Deals in NWA, and he's like a manager, and he used to run Shop TNA and everything. He had multiple on-screen backstage parts over the years, and it's almost like telling the fans, like, okay, we're expecting you to be dumb and forget this, like, but someone like Vince would never, he would not do that. Those are just the small details, like,
Actually, that's not true. Vince does that all the damn time. All the damn time.
really.
They did not to get too far off track here, but they did a documentary on, I think it was the Ruthless Aggression era, and they were talking about somebody in particular, and Vince was talking about doing something really whack with them. I think it was when they were talking about the famous thing of wanting Austin to lose a match to Brock Lesnar on Monday Night Raw. And Austin was like, what?
I remember.
And then Vince's reasoning was, by the time we get to do an important match with these two, the fans won't remember that this happened. Huh? You know what I mean? It's just like that shows just like a total, like lack of knowledge of the way wrestling fans are. Wrestling fans don't forget anything.
Yeah, no.
There are people that will dig. This reminds me of my man Satch told me about like all this stuff that was going on in the Ruthless Aggression era when I wasn't watching. And they once had a tag team called the Dicks. It was just like they were just trying any and everything. And so so Vince McMahon does that all the time, like just expecting people to forget, like, thinking wrestling fans don't have the capacity to remember a storyline. So yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, I was gonna point out the lighting though. I have a light next to me that illuminates me. It is not pointed at me. If I point it at me, yeah, it lights me up, but now this side of my face is a complete shadow, and you see a shadow behind me. Yeah. So it's turned to the side,
right?
And now there's no shadow behind me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Simple shit. So the match though, I know I got us off topic quite a bit. Really enjoy the match. My only real knock was, I have two small knocks. Is number one, like you said earlier, they were dressed almost exactly the same. They had these like gold pants and boots, and I mean, they were the inverse of each other. Like where one was gold, the other was black. The other was black and it was gold. Like,
who was this?
Trey Miguel and Rocky Romero.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they were. I didn't even notice that.
Like the same freaking, and they're about the same height. It's funny, we don't realize how short a lot of wrestlers are, and it's not a knock, dude. I'm not cool with. I think short shaming is something that. Well, I think short shaming is something that society is continuing to make acceptable. And it's not okay to me. Like if we not gonna body shame and we're not gonna do this and this, like why are we making fun of people's height? But I'm just making a point. Rocky Romero is not a tall dude. I think he's like 5'4" or something like that. Trey Miguel was not that much taller than him.
So he would fit in perfectly in AEW.
Yeah, there we go. We're in the world title. But then I met Desmond Xavier one time. I'm 5'9", dude. Average height. I was about 2 inches taller than Desmond Xavier. Did I say Xavier McDaniel at first?
No. You said Desmond Xavier.
Okay. In my head, I heard Xavier McDaniel, Boston Celtics legend.
Who was probably not 5'7".
Yeah, but I'm an inch taller than Michael Elgin, than Brian Cage. Like, you don't see a lot of wrestlers are not tall dudes. So I just kind of noticed at this match. We talked about, I think you and I were talking about MJF and Darby Allin the other day, where Darby Allin, I've seen him in person and he can't be but 5'5" or something like that. And MJF had that stare down with him when it was like an inch taller than him. I was like, oh my God, dude. So anyway, this match was really good. I really enjoyed watching it. My only other knock was Rocky Romero getting an X Division title shot immediately upon. I understand he's probably around for one set of tapings, but
right.
I mean, come on, dude. Like,
well, I'm pretty sure Rocky Romero is the Good Brothers manager, right? I think I heard that.
Like their business manager?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm sure of it. Like I know he's very tight with them.
Right. So so he's there, right? You know what I mean? He's just that he's maybe not he's not maybe like physically there, but he's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they didn't give him like some big intro because they didn't feel the need to because he's freaking there. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
he's Maverick Carter. He's Rich
Yeah, there
Paul.
we Yeah, exactly, dude. But I just I mean, giving him a title match right off the bat, it just makes no sense to me. I mean, I understand they wanted to get this, this was a match people wanted to see. I knew once he was in a Call Your Shot gauntlet and then Trey won, I was like, dude, I would love to see the two of them wrestle. That didn't mean the next episode with no build or no nothing. I just wanted to see it. Like,
Right.
I love a little bit of a build, man. Just call me old school.
Yeah.
I just have such a hard time with blowing your load like as soon as possible and then now we got to do some multi-man matches because we didn't build the one feud we could have built. But anyway, the crowd was into it. They loved it. This was just a good match.
Yeah.
Just loved. I really enjoyed it. And Trey's entrance is amazing.
What do you think of your boy Macklin coming in at the end to stake his claim to being the next title shot?
I liked his promo after in that little segment, but I'm so done with the run-ins. There's two run-ins in wrestling right now that AEW does it all the time, and Impact is starting to do it all the time. It's the post-match beatdown and someone doing an interview and someone interrupting and possibly getting into a physical altercation. And we were watching Rampage before we got on the air here. It was last week's Rampage. It was Britt Baker versus Anna Jay. So me and my old lady are big fans of both.
Nice.
So I paused it after the match, and I was like, babe, they will beat her down after this match. I was like, I don't know what happens. I was like, they're gonna show the replay, do what they do, and they're gonna continue to attack Anna Jay after the match, and Ty Conti's probably gonna run down or something, and that's exactly what happened. And I didn't notice this until Jim Cornette pointed it out. He was just like, every match has a post-match beatdown. Every interview has someone interrupting like 5 seconds into the interview. Same thing happened here. They did several backstage interviews. Someone interrupted. Someone walked up. I don't think there was any fights. I could be wrong. But yeah, the post-match, I was like, oh my God, dude. So I'm just becoming conditioned to being really tired of that. So when he came down, I was just like, oh God, come on. So it was okay. The promo after was cool, but I didn't care for the beatdown.
Yeah. All right. So backstage, Gia Miller interviews the first ever digital media champion, Jordan Grace. Tasha Steelz and Savannah Evans interrupt, calling Rachel Ellering the biggest loser of the bunch. Then Ellering reminds Tasha Steelz that she tried this before with her old partner, and she's trying it again with her new partner, but they have to go one-on-one tonight. All right. Then we see.
So there's the interruption. The interruption I just talked about.
The interruption, of course. Then we see Scott D'Amore telling Macklin that he'll have a chance to earn an X Division title opportunity next week. Moments later, Matt Cardona and Eddie Edwards confront the Impact Executive Vice President about getting their hands on Impact World Champion Moose. D'Amore announces a 6-man tag match for next week, pitting Cardona, Edwards, and Josh Alexander against Moose and 2 partners of his choosing. The chaos continues as D'Amore then breaks up a fight between Alexander and referee Brian Hebner. Alexander is furious that Hebner allowed his family to be in the ring when Moose called his shot at Bound for Glory. D'Amore tells Alexander to control his emotions and refocus on the task at hand. All right, dude, a lot going on backstage here. What'd you think about this?
So I said earlier, Eddie Edwards came out, and I'm just like, oh, here we go with this crap. Like, and again, that's the opening segment. Moose is talking, interruption. It just kind of a theme. Even when the Demon was talking later, he got interrupted before he could open his mouth. But it made sense because now, as I said, they did a really good job of painting Moose as a targeted man. I mean, even Morrissey wants to get his hands on him. Everybody. So they were able to to factor in multiple challengers for Moose's title. It's not like, okay, we know who his next opponent is. Like, there's 4 potential opponents already, and who knows who else could pop up. Um, since it's a live Impact Plus show on the next one, I hope it's not Josh Alexander. I think that would be very stupid.
Mm.
I think it's probably gonna be Eddie Edwards, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. But the storytelling it made sense to me, and then the attention to detail. I can't believe they even thought about this. I mean, my hat's off to them. With Josh Alexander telling Hebner like, "You rang the bell while my family was in there," I didn't even think of that. That didn't even cross my mind. So whoever just came up with that whole segment, that I mean, just like bravo to them. That was just that added a new element to the story.
Yeah.
And and Christian Cage kept saying, "Oh, don't let the emotions get the best of you." And the whole time he was saying that, I was like, "Why does he keep saying that to him?" I was like, "Josh is the most like even-tempered dude on the roster, like no one's got him fired." Like I didn't understand where that was coming from. Now I'm like, okay, I see they're tying that into this. So it all makes sense now. I think they were trying to paint that picture before that his emotions overtake him. I didn't see that in any. I mean, a majority of them talking to each other was friendly between I mean, it was more like trash talking, like I'm better than you, but there was no heat between the two. So I didn't understand where it's coming from, but I understand why they did it now and why they made that terminology a thing. So there is layers being peeled back here of Josh Alexander that just didn't exist 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So now I'm like really, really interested in, so much
That's
more
dope
invested.
though, right? That's story progression.
Yeah, they're doing a great job of it actually.
So that's dope. All right, so we had Tasha Steelz with Savannah Evans versus Rachel Ellering with the digital media champion Jordan Grace. After Tasha Steelz eliminated Rachel Ellering from the Call Your Shot gauntlet at Bound for Glory, both knockouts look to move up the ladder in a stacked knockouts division. Ellering jumpstarts the match with a running back elbow at the opening bell. Tasha hangs her up on the ropes to gain momentum. Tasha hits the code breaker, sending Ellering to the outside. Savannah is about to get involved when Jordan stops her. Ellering hits a modified suplex for 2. Ellering traps Sasha in a backslide to score the pinfall victory. So Rachel Ellering got the win here. What'd you think about this?
You mentioned Jordan being the digital media champion, and I forgot in that backstage segment, Gia was like, "Oh, what does this mean to you?" or whatever. Like, I know what it means. Nothing. So, just want to throw that out there. It means that title means jack shit, and it's gonna mean jack shit. But I'm curious to see how she defends it.
Yeah. Well, she's taking naked pictures with the title on Instagram. So.
Yeah, I saw that, and then they put it next to the Shawn Michaels one, where he took the.
Yeah. That was nice.
Yeah, that's too funny.
Listen, at the end of the day, it's quality content. That's quality content.
Yeah, very quality.
So it's dope. Good for her.
So my first takeaway had nothing to do with the match whatsoever. Was that a lot of wrestlers' theme songs in Impact suck, but I think I love Rachel Ellering's. I mean, love it, love it, love it. And then I like Trey Miguel's too. Everyone else on this show I could do without their songs, but I really like Rachel's. This was it was a good knockouts match until the end. The finish was so sloppy. Like I cannot believe that's how they ended the match. Like that was just so bad. We talked about twice now about wrestlers dressing the same. They were both wearing orange. The shades were a little bit different, and they obviously look different. They're of different sizes. It's not like Rocky and Trey who really resemble each other. If you squint your eyes and they're wearing the same colors,
team.
You wouldn't know who is who, right? I remember I was watching a match between it was on Shimmer. I mean on Shine. It was between Rachel Ellering and Tessa Blanchard, and at the time they were of the same stature. Rachel was thinner, and Tessa was not as buff. They essentially had the same exact body type.
Yeah.
Their hair, Rachel's hair was down at the time, and they were both wearing black, almost the exact same outfit. And I'm watching this match, and it's one of the best matches I've ever seen in women's wrestling, and it was on a Shine show. But there were times in the match I was like, I don't know who's who. Like they were doing so much and they were diving and they were rolling around and shit like that, and I was like, I can't tell them apart half the time. It was really so. I don't know why they do that. But Rachel and Tasha, they obviously look very different otherwise, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But I just noticed both wearing orange outfits. But yeah, it was cool. It was just the end was just sloppy, and they're going back to the dissent, trying to plant a seed for dissension between the two, which you had said that they're this is a storyline that's taken a long time to play out, and it's probably still where it's going. I don't want it to. I don't think they need to break up any more teams. I don't.
Right.
I think wrestling companies love to break up tag teams, and it's not necessary. Like the Young Bucks have never broken up, and they're the most fucking stale team in the world to me. But they still make it work. Um, so it was cool. Tasha is just growing and growing every episode. She really is. But the finish was just super sloppy.
Yeah. All right. So, despite betraying his alliance with W. Morrissey when he eliminated him from the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, Moose asked him to be part of his team for the big 6-man tag match next week. In exchange, he'll give Morrissey the first opportunity at the Impact World title. That's an interesting little nugget right there.
Yeah, very much.
Then Gia Miller interviews the new Knockouts Tag Team Champions, The Inspiration. So she goes into their locker room and she has a sit-down interview with The Inspiration. Cassie Lee and Justin McKay. They say their goal is to inspire the Knockouts division because they are worldwide stars, Australian legends, and inspiration leaders. All right. I thought it was actually funny though. I like their act. This is where they shine.
I do too.
This is where they shine. They shine with the annoying stuff and funny. So I think they really do well in spots like this. I think that's the perfect use of them. I just don't know that they need to be holding your tag team titles.
Yeah, I found it really funny. I like the minute Gia Miller walked in. And this was a segment. Gia's shadow was like stupid on the door, and then she enters, and it's all shadow, but behind all three of them. But I think first I want to say, and I said this last couple of weeks, Gia Miller is improving every week, sounding more and more natural, and showing more personality, and so I got to say that. But I thought it was really funny. The minute Gia sat down, old girl Jessie McKay reaches out with hand sanitizer and just, drops a couple. Immediately when she sat down, and then the interview wasn't even over, and they're just kind of like, okay, bye,
Right.
I thought it was funny. They're a good act.
Yeah, they are a good act. Speaking of Gia Miller, for anybody that doesn't know, Gia Miller and Ace Austin had a horrible fire at their apartment. They pretty much lost all their stuff, and there was a GoFundMe to help them, try to get back on their feet. If you guys, go to Gia Miller's Twitter, I'm pretty sure she has a link to it up there. Last I saw, they were doing pretty well in terms of the numbers that they got. But a wad of cash is one thing, but when you think about replacing everything inside a home, that number is probably way bigger than you think it is. You know what I mean? In terms of what you would need to replace all the stuff you've accumulated. Imagine losing every physical possession you have in the world. Yeah. You know what I mean? Except for something that's like tucked away at your mom's house or something. Imagine that, so I think for the most part, that's kind of what happened to those guys. So if you guys, if you got a little extra, and you can afford to help out, like I said, she's got I think a GoFundMe attached to her page. If you guys want to drop by there, I'm sure that'd just be, I'm sure they would appreciate it, just, on a human level, you know what I'm saying? B, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I forgot about that story, and that's really unfortunate. I know she mentioned she's able to save her cat beforehand. I would be screwed because I got 7 cats in this bitch and 2 dogs, so I would be I'd be screwed if that happened to me. But No, but in all
Cat's
seriousness,
like really nimble though. I figured the cats would get out, like they'd see the fire, and be like meow.
yeah, yeah, maybe I don't know. But yeah, dude. In all seriousness, that's a really unfortunate thing that happened to them. So, I do have their GoFundMe link, so I probably need to donate
Yeah,
something. I actually completely forgot about that story.
put a little something in the collection plate, brother.
Yeah.
All right. We had Heath and Rhino. Heath and Rhino, they may be back together, but the war with Violent by Design is far from over. Doring erases Heath with a big running cross body. Heath tries to build momentum, but Doring shuts him down with a powerful shoulder tackle. Doring hits a power slam for 2. Heath turns the tide after a big kick to take the big man off his feet. Diener trips up Heath from the outside, but Rhino makes him pay. The match erupts into total chaos as a brawl breaks out between the two sides. So Joe Doring with Violent by Design versus Heath with Rhino ends in a no contest. After being taken out of action with a knee injury, Eric Young reveals that he's healthy when he attacks Rhino and hits him with a top rope elbow. Young continues the assault as he pile drives Heath into the mat. All right, so Eric Young's back on his feet here. How you feel about that?
uh, up to the Eric Young part, I was like, this is a huge waste of my time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was just like, what am I watching here, dude? Like, again, I have some interest in Heath. I've never I've never really been into Joe Doring a whole lot, just because I don't understand what he's going for. Um, but I just found this at first. I just wrote down in my notes here like waste of time. But this story progressed when Eric. Yeah, I had a feeling they were going that direction when he was like, I'm hurt, I'm hurt. I was like, oh shit, is he okay? Like I was just I knew either Rhino was going to turn around and spear uh, Heath, or Eric Young was going to be healed. I knew one of the two was going to happen, and it adds a wrinkle now that I have a lot more interest in, because it got to the point with Violent by Design. Eric Young was doing a very good job of holding the fort down and still showing up to the tapings. Not a lot of wrestlers,
True.
respect to Eric Young, not a lot of wrestlers continue to show up when they're hurt. There's been
And he
lots
got
of.
like more buff throughout his injury.
Did he really?
He's like Eric Young's like jacked now.
Oh, okay. I didn't quite notice, but that's awesome. There's a lot of wrestlers who are part of stables or something like that. They get hurt and they just off TV. Um, Eric Young still showed, because Violent by Design would have been dead without Eric Young. Like, there's no way they could have continued that. Um, and he showed up every week. Couldn't wrestle, um, but he did his thing on the mic. But it started getting old, like really fast. So now that he's able to wrestle, it seems like, and dude, the moves he was doing was like, he just looked great in there. So the whole the whole thing just turned around, did a 180 for me, and so now I'm excited to see, you know, how this plays out with him actually being able to compete. Because I was just like, dude, are we really just going to see Doring and Diener wrestle these two guys
Right.
back and forth? That's what I thought was going to happen. So, um, so yeah, that's cool. I'm glad Eric Young's back finally.
Yeah, EY being back definitely adds a nice little wrinkle, a little more interest to this piece. All right, the Good Brothers celebrate retaining their Impact World Tag Team titles over Finjuice and the Bullet Club at Bound for Glory. Juice Robinson and David Finlay interrupt and remind the Good Brothers that they had the match won when it was stolen from them. Finjuice challenges them to a traditional title match, but the Good Brothers say that they have to earn it. There was one part I love in this where the Good Brothers say to Finjuice, you don't get titles by almost having the match won. You get titles by winning the match.
That was excellent. Yeah, that was good. Um, the Good Brothers comes out, oh, we're Bookers of the Year, which completely goes against everything that Scott D'Amore's been saying, and even Matt Striker, where they say wrestlers don't make matches, management makes matches, and then here we got the wrestlers making matches.
Right. All right, so we have the Demon. He made his shocking return to Impact Wrestling his shocking return to wrestling at the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. At Bound for Glory, Johnny Swinger confronts him during an interview with Gia Miller, but Decay come to his aid. The Demon says that he returned to Impact Wrestling because demons are welcome. This was super corny.
Yeah, it was bad. I did laugh out loud when Swinger touched him and then like accidentally touched a spike. He's like, "Ow!" And then he just continued like, if there's anyone who knows who he is and knows his character, it's Johnny Swinger. Like he is.
True.
There was a point in time where I was really annoyed by him, but now I'm just like appreciating that what he does is an art. Like
Yeah.
he knows who he is. But even those small comedy pieces he can do. But I kind of felt like Decay shows up. I'm just like, dude, Decay is not the same, man. Like they seem to be closer to comedy than they are to the Decay everybody loves. You know,
Yeah.
it's not saying they're comedy, but they're in that spectrum. They're flirting with it. They're on the border of it.
Right.
They've been Rosemary the same.
A ghoul, right? Then you're either horror or comedy. There's no in the middle. There's no medium ghoul, right? You're either comic relief or you're a scary monster. They're not scary monsters.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right. So Mickie James defeated Deonna Purrazzo to become the Knockouts champion once again at Bound for Glory. Mickey's in the ring to address the Impact Zone following her victory. Mickie admits that Purrazzo gave her her hardest match of her career, but notes that no one has seen or heard from Purrazzo after the loss. Mickie knows that Purrazzo has a rematch clause, but until then, she looks forward to defending against the other incredible talent in the Knockouts division. Madison Rayne and Caleb with a K interrupt. Madison talks about how she'll never get the credit she deserves for helping build the Knockouts division. Madison reminds her that she's a 5-time Knockouts champion compared to Mickey's 4 reigns with the title. Madison challenges her to a Knockouts championship match next week, and Mickie gladly accepts. Caleb, with the K, calls Mickie stupid and gets slapped in the face for it. All up in his grizzle. What'd you think about this?
I really enjoyed this actually. Madison looked a little off. There was something about her. You know, I get Botox, so I'm not saying anything, but I feel like yeah, man. I felt like her face was a little tight looking, but I mean, she's gorgeous, dude. I'm not talking any kind of shit. I'm just saying something was off about her, but no, she's gorgeous. I really enjoyed this. I thought Madison sounded great in this promo. I don't understand why the influence. I always want to call it the Titantron or Jumbotron because old school, whatever you want to call it. Why is it still Tennille Dashwood's name and it's only Tennille? All about me. It's like you haven't done any kind of content that could change that up.
Well, I mean, that's better than what Madison Rayne has. But also, I think
I like Madison Rayne's song way better.
I don't think that Tennille is like, she's not gone, right? She's just out for a little bit. So
yeah,
this is the act right now. So they're just staying in the act.
Yeah, but I just mean I can't believe they don't have their own graphics. Like it's just
well, they got a graphic for Madison. They probably got 10 graphics for Madison Rayne.
Yeah, they could do anything. So
yeah.
But anyway, I really enjoyed it. I thought Madison sounded great, and I'm looking forward to this match a lot, like a lot. They've been Impact clearly. If they can do some kind of icon versus icon match with TNA's history, they're gonna do it. And this is probably the best one they've been able to put together with the knockouts. You know, they've tried to get Taylor Wilde in the ring versus Madison Rayne. Something like that's not quite the same. Like this, there's a story pre-made here. Like, hey, it's a 4-time knockout champion versus 5-time. I could hear Josh Matthews like 5-time knockout champion Madison Rayne. I'm just disappointed that we're getting it next week because they're going to do this 3-on-3 match, which is the main event. Like at first when I saw this, I was like, dude, this better be the main event of whatever episode it's on. And then they do the 3-way. So next week they're doing both matches. It's not going to be the main event. I mean, I highly doubt it is. You know, if you're gonna do the live Turning Point, I think it's Turning Point in November. That's live. Like, why not do it there? Like, I don't understand why they wouldn't do it there. Like, this is a big deal of a match, in my opinion. This is not let's do it next week.
I
You know,
agree.
like do
I
it, and then
100% agree.
Then you get like Madison Rain get a couple wins under her belt
Yeah,
because
right.
she hasn't won any matches between her and the Influence anytime in recent memory. So like, let her get hot and then build this.
I 100% agree with that. And I just want what you just said actually reminded me of something that annoys me so much about AEW is that I know that Britt Baker is like she's a favorite over there, but they're not doing her any favors by continuously putting her in matches that no one thinks she's going to lose. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like they did this, they put her in a match with Red Velvet, and they put Red Velvet on TV, I think 2 weeks before that to start building. I'm like, dog, you can't do this. Like, you can't, I mean, you can do it, you know what I mean? You can do it,
Yeah.
but don't get mad at us when we when we don't have interest in the match. You know, and again, just so like this match right here, Madison Rain versus Mickie James, this is a headliner.
Yeah.
This is a headliner. This is one where they should be like, yo, I'll see you in 2 weeks, or I'll see you at the Impact Plus special. You know what I mean? Something like that. And then let's build. Like, oh my God, dude, this is like, instead of giving them 10, 15 minutes next week, you can do that. You can do an interview segment with Madison and an interview segment with Mickie, you know, talking about the history. And then you can do a video package of Madison and a video package of Mickie. You know what I mean? Like, you can fill that time in different ways and create some anticipation for their match. Like, this is a match. Yo, listen, when I was sitting here talking about how Madison Rain should be a Hall of Famer, ain't nobody want to hear me though. But you're making my point. Like, it's right here. And if there's anything we have learned about Impact and the people who actually watch Impact, is the people who have been watching this shit since the TNA days. And so they are here for nostalgia. So a match like Madison Rain, arguably one of the greatest Knockouts champions ever, versus Mickie James, arguably one of the greatest knockouts ever. Like, you got to build that, man. You got to build that. And again, like, we're all what you would call diehards, so we're going to watch it anyway. Okay. But you can create some buzz around the wrestling world by circulating that Mickie James has a big match coming up. Yeah. Okay. Then you circulate that Madison Rain has a big match coming up. Talk about the history. Tell us why this is not a throwaway match. Why we shouldn't just be like, oh, there's no way they're going to take the title off Mickie in her first defense. Like, you got to build the reason why we should have some doubt. And so, you know, so they're not doing that. They're going to give us this match. It's just like we talked about with Eddie Edwards, right? When he was doing the fighting champion thing, and they did an Eddie Edwards versus Sami Callihan match. Like, bro, like, you have in-house in your recent history all the stuff that makes this an epic rivalry. Like, why would you just give us this with no build? So, you know, I don't know.
The first match of the show.
I don't know. To me, it's just it seems too easy. You know what I mean? Like, it's right there in their lap, and they just don't want to do it. You know what I mean? That's not how they get down. So
yeah, I mean, Mercedes Martinez has a title shot coming up. They're probably going to do that at Turning Point. I would have done it the other way around. I just, yeah. I know we talk about builds a lot, and maybe they just don't value certain matches having that build because they want to say, well, we want the episodes to be good. So we're not, you know, maybe the story slacks a little bit, but you can't do this match again.
They could have, you know, next week, Mercedes Martinez come out and interrupt and be like, yo, you can't cut the line. You know, I know you're supposed to get a title shot, but I'm supposed to get my title shot first. And then maybe they have a little bickering, a little back and forth, and then we can space that out. But I think you get more mileage out of it by spacing it out that way. This is a match you don't just have to run through because there's a story there, and the story is what matters the most.
Yeah, absolutely.
So. All right. Moose recruits Minoru Suzuki to join him and W. Morrissey as they battle Josh Alexander, Eddie Edwards, and Matt Cardona in a 6-man tag next week. Plus, Mickey James defends the Knockouts Championship against Madison Rayne. A new number one contender to the X Division title will be determined when Rohit Raju, Steve Macklin, Laredo Kid, and Black
Taurus.
Oh, Black. Okay, Black Taurus. Square off in so much more. Don't miss an All New Impact next week. Okay. Well, did I just read like a promo for next week?
Yeah, this is a very loaded. They have a very loaded card next week. I will give them that, but we're not gonna beat a dead horse on that knockouts match. But you got a big main event. That should be the focus. Like you've even got this number one contenders match. I don't know why they're number one. I don't know why they're fighting over it. Clearly Steve Macklin's gonna win, but the other guys have no business being.
I also wish they would just stop all these like multi-man matches, because like you can't fucking care about if there's 4 people in a match all the time, you can't focus on and care about all 4 people. You can't. But what you can do, especially seeing that you need to fill TV time, is have 2 matches between those 4 people, right? And actually 3 matches, right? These 2 go against each other. These 2 go against each other. The winner come out and boom. That's 3 matches. That's 3 matches. That's like a TV. That's like half a TV show right there. Right?
Yeah, I would be more interested
to a challenger.
I would be more interested if they did something like a 2-on-2 tag team match, and whoever scores the pinfall, which that's going to cause a little dissemination between the teams as well. With any, but whoever scores the pinfall is the number one contender.
Right.
It's different.
All right. The main event of the show was Ace Austin with Madman Fulton versus Chris Sabin. It's main event time on Impact as Chris Sabin seeks revenge on Ace Austin and Madman Fulton for his demise in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. Sabin hits a sunset flip in the opening moments of the match for an early 2 count. Sabin does some serious damage to the knee of Ace with some unique submission offense. Ace hits a flapjack on the ropes, followed by a vertical suplex. Ace gives him a paper cut with his signature laminated playing card. Ace crashes and burns with a top rope leg drop, giving Sabin a chance to recuperate. Sabin hits a modified brainbuster for 2. Ace fights out of the cradle shock, leading to a sequence that lays out both men in the middle of the ring. Ace connects with a springboard jumping kick for another near fall. Sabin hits a jumping tornado DDT out of the corner. Ace distracts the referee, allowing Fulton to pull Sabin off the top. Sabin sends Ace crashing into Fulton on the floor. Fulton attacks Sabin once again, allowing Ace to capitalize with the fold. Ace Austin with Madman Fulton defeat Chris Sabin, and we go off the air like that. What'd you think here?
I didn't care about this match even a little bit. I don't even know why they were fighting. I think it had something, they were trying to play it off, it had something to do with the gauntlet. Oh, because Fulton eliminated him. Sabin had lasted the whole match, and then Fulton pulled him out, I believe, even though he was eliminated.
Right. They were like,
I don't know why he didn't wrestle
let's
Fulton.
end the show with a good wrestling match.
Yeah, that's all it was. They were just like, let's put on a good match to end it. They didn't overbook it to where it was this beatdown, all this crap at the end. So I don't know. I didn't care though. I just thought the first match of the show was really good, and then when once the Heath and Violent by Design thing started coming, I was it was going downhill a little bit for me. But it was just a match. I didn't totally care.
Yeah, no, you're right. But again, this is what I was saying. It's all about the story. You could put together a banger. Like, yes, I know if you put Ace Austin and Chris Sabin in the ring, that's going to be a banger. I know that, but you got to give me story, man. There has to be a reason. Like, why do I care? Some people be like, oh, I just want to see the wrestling. You know what I mean? I don't. I need a story. I need to care. You know what I mean? I need to know why you guys are going so hard trying to beat each other. And to say, oh, he threw me out of the gauntlet. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
All right, man. I think that kind of wraps it up. So listen, we are getting the show out kind of late for you guys. So we're gonna skip the mailbag, the comment section this week. I think what we might do is we might record an episode of just questions and answers.
Yeah.
You know, I think that might be a good one. Maybe we'll put in for some evergreen content. You know, it'll be like holidays coming up. There'll be times when we don't really, you know, feel like sitting down and doing a show. We're both, you know, family men. You know, we got busy lives, so maybe we'll do a catch up comments question and answer show, and we'll just put that in the bag for, you know, when we have like a day we both can't get the show done. But we will get to your questions and comments, so please drop your comments and questions below the YouTube video, and we promise we will get back to you. Okay, you know, leave your name and where you're from, tell us what you think of the show, think of the comment. But before you go, make sure you hit that like button, okay? Hit that like button if you like this content that we're creating for you right here. Before we go, BQ, tell the people where they can find you.
At BQ Speaks on Twitter and at the Impact Lounge on Twitter and Instagram.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can find me at TW Talking About on your social media choice. That's your face. That's your Twitter, your Instagram. You can follow my podcast page at Talking About Pod. You can also catch me on the Open Gym Sports and Culture Show. You can find that on, you can search OGSC on you know, social media or YouTube, and you can find the show. It's a lot of great funny content that we put out there. And yeah, man, the most important thing is if you guys like this show, make sure you share it. Okay, drop it in somebody's Facebook page. Make sure you email it to a friend, tweet it to a friend. You know, just tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's bring more people into the conversation. For BQ, I'm TW. Peace.